to the pole.
Can you just run it straight to the...
You can run it straight down. Actually, that's better because the pole may not be a good conductor. Sometimes you get them in aluminium and these variances on there. So if you can, push it straight out to the other rod. Done.
Okay. Who has worked on any Microtech device before? Some experience.
Okay,
Okay.
then you can come up and show.
Again.
So the Microtech model that we use is the SXT LTE, which is the round device. It's a pointing aerial only router board. So you have to point it in the direction of where the tower is. If you don't know where the tower is, you're going to stand at the back of the unit and turn it on the pole. At the back of the unit, it's got LEDs that will tell you what the signal is.
Okay,
Once,
guys, for you guys that need any assistance with that, there is an app called LTE Discovery that you can download. This is the app. Only problem is if you've got a Telkom one, you obviously need a Telkom SIM. If you've got a Vodacom one, you need a Vodacom SIM. This app actually shows you the direction of the closest tower. The tower is getting signal from. You actually remove it, sorry?
Open signal also does it now.
Yeah, I've got open signal as well. So either one will actually work. Open signal or LTE.
Open
Discovery.
signal also shows LTE in the area.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. I've got here, you can see both apps. This is open signal and this is. So download the app, it will help with the install.
Okay.
Okay.
once you've aligned the Microtech in its place and the signal is full bars on the unit, log into the unit and look at the signal strength there as well. Adjust it maybe 1 degree to the left or to the right, see if you can better the signal. Remember, 1 degree on your side is a kilometer on the other side. Okay, a difference on the signal. This Microtech is an LTE router only. It does not fail over to 3G. Okay, so if a client requires 3G failover from LTE, we provide a different solution for them which we'll get through. Okay. So in order to, in this manual, you'll notice there are 2 little icons there. If you hold in the control button, so if you've got the soft copies, what I would suggest, send me an email. My email address, if you guys want to write it down. Or I'll give you the group email address so anyone will be able to reply. It is technical@mia.co.za. Just send an email stating you would like the soft copies of the training material for the Freedom training material. We'll send you a link for you to download the soft copy and any applications that is involved with this. Okay. Otherwise, holding the control key on your keyboard, click on either picture, and for an example with the TeamViewer one, if you click on the picture, it takes you directly to the previous downloads of the TeamViewer website. Then you don't have to go and search for it and go into little menus and so forth. If you click on the MIA support one, it takes you to the MIATech website, and there you can just log in, download the MIA support TeamViewer version. Okay. Keep in mind, we are licensed here at MIA for TeamViewer 7 only. It cost us a lot to get a license for the TeamViewer. For those that has ever inquired about a TeamViewer license, you'll know what I'm talking about. So we can connect on TeamViewer 7 and below. If you have TeamViewer 12 running on your PC, we can't connect to you. So please download the MIA support TeamViewer version. Okay. Do yourself a favor, just as a random request, try and get a quote on a TeamViewer license. You guys will be surprised on the cost of them.
There is a download on the MIA site for it as well.
Yes,
site.
on MIATech,
Download it from there.
yeah, where you can download that application, the top one. And we can connect on any desk. The only problem is any desk has a very, very long lag on it. Okay, so TeamViewer is a lot faster. Any desk is a bit.
But just go download that one. Let's see.
Yeah. Okay. So that is the equipment that you'll be getting, the power supply, the power data adapter. So the power side will be your outdoor cable going into your Microtech. The data side, this can go directly into a wall box, for example like this, into a patch panel, or you can take it to a switch. Okay. So that's the adapter that you'll get, and that's how you'll be connecting it. You'll get the pole bracket and the clamp as well. Once you open up the little clip at the back, you'll notice there's a little slot for the SIM card. Okay. That SIM card will be pre-inserted for you guys. The LAN connection, and the screw here is the ground screw that you'll be grounding the unit on. Okay. To connect to the Microtech, you're going to need an application called Winbox. You can log into the Microtech website or click on that link. On the Microtech website, search for downloads. Right at the bottom of the page, you'll find Winbox. Okay. Yes.
Is there a distance limitation with the theory kit, outlet kit?
Yeah, default Cat5 cable, you're looking at 96 meters.
Yeah.
No, but your injector, depends on your injector.
No.
Still
No.
96 meters.
It's still 96 meters. Okay. It's 96 meters because you have to take into consideration between your patch panels and so forth as well, your fly leads. Okay. The default IP address of the unit is 192.168.88.1. Admin, and there's no password on it. However, you don't have to be in that range to be able to connect to the Microtech. Okay. We connect to the Microtech on the MAC address. Okay. We don't worry about the IP address. Your PC doesn't even need to have an IP address, and you can still connect to the Microtech. Okay. So once you've downloaded the application Winbox, you've installed it, the application will look like this. It will pick up any Microtech that's on your network. So for example, if you know there's a client that's got at least 15 Microtechs on their network, it will go and list all 15 for you. Okay. Then you know you're on the wrong network because you must only have the ones that you've plugged into. Just make sure your switch is in the correct your network cable is in the correct switch. So in this case, we have 3 Microtechs on here because we got a failover solution. First one is we label each one so that we know what is what. LTE failover gateway, Telkom APN, and the Vodacom APN. The IP addresses, we have 192.168.1.1. Telkom is 1.3. So just ignore this number. And Vodacom is 1.2. Okay. So if you want Telkom to be the primary link and Vodacom the secondary, we just have to change the IPs, and in the script that we load onto the gateway, we just change the script accordingly as well. Once you want to connect to one of these devices, you click on the MAC address. It will auto-populate on top. We have a default password of s@msang APN for all our devices.
Small s.
So all lowercase, S, the @ symbol, MSUNG APN. Okay. Insert then password in the password field, and you click on the connect button. It will log you into the device. Once you've logged in, the menu structure will be on the left, and there's sub menus there as well. Okay. So this manual that I've created, and the reason why we have to give you guys training on all these products, for example, if any of the device for any reason defaults, which we've never had before so far, but if a device defaults and it loses its entire configuration, you are able to log into the device, reconfigure it yourself, and get the client back up and running as soon as possible. However, you're just going to need to phone us for the username and password for the APN details, but that is something that can take 2 minutes. Phone us, we'll give you the details, and you can carry on. Okay.
That's the only reason. Remember, all of this equipment is already pre-configured.
Pre-configured. Also,
This is just for maintenance purposes that we're going through this. And to help in an installation in case something
Yeah.
goes.
because you're going to need to know how to log into the unit to go and confirm the signal. Are you getting DHCP on the devices that you're connecting on, and so forth. Okay.
Okay, that's another thing.
So,
These devices are connected to DHCP. They're configured as DHCP.
Yeah.
Another reason why we cannot plug into the client's network. We're gonna screw them over if we do.
Okay.
So
you're going to
why-
mess them around, they're going to mess you around. Your stuff won't work correctly, their stuff won't work correctly. Okay.
If for any reason we need to do a link on it, like if we've got an on-site and we've got a TMS, phone in or log into the unit and switch DHCP off, which Quentin will show you how to do now, and then we'll have to configure the rest of the stuff on statics.
Instead of spending 5 minutes on the phone talking to us to disable the DHCP, you can do it by 2 clicks of a button. Okay. It's just to make the install a lot quicker and easier for you guys.
Okay, y'all will be frustrated if you're sitting hanging on to somebody. So let's have a look at this and do it ourselves. Phone as little as possible, we all have.
In this manual, we also explain how to do firmware on the units. This can be in the case where we have a certain version installed on the units and we find that we have 1, 2, and 3 that is a problem on the units. We get new firmware, we'll release it to you and we'll ask you, for an example, to upgrade the unit for us. However, we have remote access to all of the units out in the field, if configured correctly. Okay, so we'll have access to them. If we don't, and the unit is completely down, the client unplugged and that, and we ask you to go and have a look what's going on site. And while you're there, we're going to ask you, can you just do a firmware version for us? This is going to explain to you how to do it. Very, very, very easy to do. Click, drag, few commands, and it's done. Okay. So once again, you'll get a link for the firmware. You'll download the firmware. You'll log into the unit. On the left-hand side, you're going to look for a menu called Files. You're going to click on Files, click and drag the firmware version. So yeah, you can see the middle one, the second option is Router OS. You'll click and drag that file from your PC into this window. Just drag and drop into here. It will upload the file, roughly a 10 meg file. And once that has been uploaded, you click on the new terminal window. We're going to go through all of this with through practical as well. So you're going to open up new terminal, punch in system router board print, so that it's going to print you the current firmware version that's on there. So for an example, it will say 3.33. You're going to reboot the device. Once you've rebooted it, it upgrades the router board itself, the main board of the unit. It hasn't upgraded the firmware yet. So it only upgrades the main board. Once it's rebooted, you do a router board print again. Have a look at your versions there. Okay, there they explain the reboot. Once you say reboot, you have to say yes. After reboot, you log back in and you say system router board upgrade. It's going to ask you, are you sure? You say yes, and it's going to tell you you need to reboot the device. You reboot it. It's going to take a little bit longer than normal to reboot and come back up. Once you've logged back in and you say system router board print, you'll see upgrade version is 3.41 and current firmware is 3.41. Then you know the system is done. Okay. Once the firmware has been done, every firmware has default rules that they apply to it, also known as like dummy firewall rules and so forth on the devices. However, we don't want any of those rules on the devices. We want our own rules. So what you then do, you punch in system reset configuration, no defaults equals yes. Okay. What you can do as well, it's a lot to type out, or what you type in is SYS, press the tab button, it auto completes to system. or space, RESE, press the tab button, it auto-completes the words for you. So just punch in the first few letters, press the tab button, auto-completes. Once you say, you press enter here, it's going to ask you to reset, and you say yes, the system will reboot, and all default rules will be removed from the unit. Only then start your configuration on the unit. Okay. Do not take a unit out the box and configure it and expect it to work 100%. Always remove all default configuration and just configure what is needed. The same as on a PABX. If you get a PABX, they are all blank PABXs. I always say, before I configure any device, I default it to make sure that any rules or anything that's there is gone, so it's only what I need. To configure the device, there's basically 5 main things that you need to do. You're going to need your LTE username and password, LAN IP address, the DHCP configured or not, firewall, the NAT, and the SIP ALG, as well as the SNMP. Those 3 must be configured. Okay. System is identity, LEDs, and users. Okay. So these are for information purposes. Users is where we configure the password, change the password. The LEDs is to confirm that the LEDs at the back of the device are actually active and that they're monitoring the correct interface. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to stand at the back of the device and the LEDs aren't going to show you what the signal is. SNMP is what we use to monitor all the devices. So for example, the APN is connected, we can see that, but we'll get an alert as soon as the LAN cable on the data side, for example, if it plugs out the switch, we'll get an alert to say that the switch on the LTE went down. Okay. So we'll phone you and tell you, okay, the APN is up, but there's no devices connected to it. Then we know it's network related. Okay. And we can also pull graphs to see what is the up and down time of the APNs. SIP ALG, very important. Who knows what the SIP ALG does? Or what it is also? Okay. In a nutshell, as you said, it messes you around. Okay. But what it actually does is it changes your ports that you're registering from and to. So then it doesn't register correctly on the PABXs. For example, one of the solutions is the iServe solution, the IPDEX solution. So if the SIP LG is still on, it messes around with the iServe solution so that you can't, for example, make calls, you can't receive calls. You can phone internally, but you can't phone externally, stuff like that. Okay. Always confirm that the SIP LG is off, and NAT has to be enabled as well. Okay. If NAT isn't enabled, it's also going to be a problem for your voice calls on that. Do you guys know what NAT is or what it stands for?
Network address translation.
Correct, yes. What does it do?
So if you say you need to get to 192.168.1.1 and you're coming in on the public IP, the NAT will take that on the port you're coming in and convert it to go to 192.168.1.1.
So all your local IPs, when you access a device on the outside and there's NAT on there, it converts your local IP basically into the device's public IP so that it knows how to get there and the traffic to come back. Okay. It masquerades your local IP with the public IP of the device.
For routing purposes.
For routing purposes. DHCP, do you guys know what DHCP is used for? Anyone? Eugene?
Automatic. Speaker with IP address automatically.
Yeah. So that you don't have to configure static IPs on the devices. LAN IP address, what will that be used for? if you got a failover solution and you got the MikroTik RB750, that RB750 will be giving out the DHCP, but if we have to switch off the DHCP, always make sure your device's gateway is the RB750's IP address. Okay. So all of this, what we're going through, explains also like a step-by-step how to install the bundles. Okay. Because you need to configure these devices in order to get the bundle up and running. Okay. On the LTE interface, extremely easy. I'm not going to go in detail much on this side. I'll rather concentrate more on the when we do it practical. Open up the LTE interface, double click the LTE, and you insert the username and password. Keep in mind, depending on the SIM card that you use, this will be your APN name. Okay. And that is what it will look like. So you'll get a user and password field. That is your username and password, which we'll be providing you with. And then your APN name is MIA APN. For example, if it's a Telkom, and add default route has to be enabled. Otherwise, the device doesn't have a route to go out with. Okay. Very important, and this is for all installs. When you do a installation, if you've got one MikroTik, 3, 5, doesn't matter how many MikroTiks, or LTE devices. Let's say LTE devices, it doesn't matter if it's, for example, which we'll cover, is a Huawei 3G, 4G router. A MikroTik can be a billion router. Always take a screenshot of your signal, and you have to document that and attach it to your job card. Okay. Your RSSI and your RSRP, that is very important to look at. Those numbers mustn't be, for example, 150. They must be as close to each other as possible. Okay. Otherwise, it creates like what they call a signal loop in the air. Okay. Your signal to noise ratio, always have that as minimum as possible. Do you guys know how to change these values?
Sorry, which two must be as close to?
RSSI, RSRP. Do you guys know how to change these values? Alignment. Okay. Because we're monitoring signal here. And the only way how you can change a signal is alignment.
Well, the RSSI, the lower the number, the better it is.
Yes. Closest to 0. Okay. We've had sites, their company has seen it as well before. I'm not sure who picked it up at your company, but we've seen it at other sites. If it says minus, argument's sake, minus 27, the signal is too good for the router. Okay. It doesn't make sense, but it's too good.
So turn it away.
You have to turn it away a bit. Okay.
Must be more than minus 27 basically.
I think
Okay.
around 30 or
Yo.
35 up is fine.
You can take it between 35, in some cases, depending on how close you are to the tower and so forth, take it on 40 to about 60. Okay.
Exceeding 80, not good.
Yeah. If you exceed a very high number, for example, 80 as Alan mentioned, you will experience problems. Or not you, the client. Okay.
So what is the spec for upper and lower limits?
Minimum, work on 40, max 60. Okay. So if it's 27,
60 is poor signal.
above 60 is poor. Remember, it works in a minus signal.
Signal, yes.
Okay. So if it's 27, adjust it a bit to try and get 40. Okay. And then your signal to noise, of course, the lower the better. Okay.
When the RSSI, while you're messing with that, RSRP, what's the ideal value for that?
No, they must try and be close to each other as possible. So, for example, if the top one is minus 57, the bottom one must be minus 60, mine is 59
You're
or
gonna
so.
adjust to get that as low as possible, right?
Yeah.
As we said, minimum around 35. Once you get that at its peak, you start adjusting for that. So you might have to pick that up a little bit
To get this,
close to this.
yeah.
So wherever you get the best signal there, but closest to this figure here,
So
That's
that's
your
not
optimal.
ideal what's there.
No,
that's
because this has been taken with the unit being installed
So
over here.
what difference should one try to keep it within? What's acceptable? If the
I've
top's
done
minus
I've done
57,
20
Yeah.
20, 25 I've done in without roll.
So if
So-
the difference is greater than, say, 25,
You're gonna have to test,
speech,
check your speech. all
Yeah.
those things.
But
You're
when-
gonna have to adjust it to the best possible.
keep in mind when you do test speech, once you've adjusted the signal, don't test with one phone call. Ask the client to at least make 4 concurrent calls. Because as soon as it's load, that is where you're actually going to be picking it up on.
And don't make a 30-second call.
Yeah.
Hold your call for a couple months.
Okay.
that's a statement that says do not install if signal is higher. Can we just hold the LTE before we mount it? Is that an acceptable test or do we have to?
Therefore, the reason we started with this is should be the first step in your installation in any given time. You put up your LTE first, test your signals, make sure you find. If you're finding a problem, phone in rather than say, I'm not too sure.
Okay, but what I'm saying is if you hold the unit,
It
is,
should be fine.
I mean.
To
why
do a
you holding
test?
it? Yeah, just to.
Guy
check it.
standing on the roof holding it. Yes, that'll work.
Yeah.
These are predetermined that
They are predetermined because the coverage is checked for them, and they check obviously which some would be better, Vodacom or Telcom, before they sent out. So they should actually theoretically not be a problem.
Is there a check done by MEA
Yes,
before an order is
before the order is accepted, it's checked. Yeah, on the coverage.
So we shouldn't be finding ourselves.
But sometimes you'll know. You're on the border of a coverage map. I've actually had situations where I've actually changed the LTE to face the opposite direction of the town, believe it or not.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to play with the thing on the roof. No matter how many apps we've got to check where the tower is, the best is physically check. Get on the roof, sit with the laptop, and that signal strength meter at the back is a guideline. You move it till you get the highest bars. This, when you log in, is the only way to make sure. Okay, so don't go there and sit on the roof, feel, that's the best. Go plug in and carry on with your install. Log into the router, confirm.
The redundancy of these people on all the packages.
The redundancy will be set up already. You'll be told exactly. Well, you're gonna plug the units into the 750 RV. Once they're in there, you're gonna log on to the routers manually. You will know what the IPs are, and do the same test on both. And you might have to phone Quentin and say, I know you've got Vodacom set as the primary here, but I'm getting a better signal on Telcom, so can we swap them around? Okay. As I said, we're using coverage maps. The physical test on site is the only way to do it.
Sorry, guys. Okay, so all of this will be, as Dylan said, pre-configured. All of this needs to be explained to you so that you know how to, sorry, I just have to mention this again, so that you know how to configure the devices. After this, we're going to take the physical bundle and we're going to, there's already devices there registered to the cloud, but then I'm going to ask you guys to go there and register the phone and as though you're on site, okay? So that you do the physical install as well. Okay. So the LAN address, as we said, that will be the gateway for all the devices. Very important. The DHCP if there's DHCP required on the network, which will be there by default because that's how we configure it, so that if you have, for example, 10 IP phones, then you don't have to configure every phone with a static IP address. It makes the install a lot easier, and it also prevents some problems, for example, IP conflicts, because you can't remember what you've done on the first phone when you get to the 10th phone. Okay. So to do the DHCP extremely easy, it's about 8 clicks, and then the DHCP has been configured. You can follow through on that guide, how that was done. When it asks for a DNS server, there is no DNS used on the Freedom bundles, okay? Because all our IPs are public static IPs. We don't refer back to any URL names or so forth, okay? The lease time, by default, 10 minutes. However, you can go and change that to 30 minutes, an hour, 24 hours, it doesn't matter, okay? So as you see, there's 10 clicks and the DHCP has been 8 clicks and the DHCP has been configured. Okay. The masquerading, extremely very important. This needs to be done so that the voice is routed correctly on the network. Okay. To do that is 3 clicks, change source, must be source net. Your out interface is your LTE because that's where all our traffic will be going, and the action is, so on your tabs on top, action, you have masquerade, and the net masquerade, what they refer to, has been enabled. So 3 clicks and it's done. It's not like other routers where you have to go and click multiple times and go and punch in commands and so forth. Okay, extremely easy to configure. Yes. Okay, het jy notas in die een al gemaak? Ja. Okay. Kan hom maar vat, ja. Okay. When you have the iServe IPDect bundles, sorry, I just want to, okay. So when you have the iServe IPDect bundles, this is extremely important that the SIP LG has been disabled. Okay. Otherwise, it will also mess you around with your speech and your phone calls. Okay. We'll go through this and I'll explain to you how that gets installed as well. Okay. The SNMP, this is what we use for the monitoring. Extremely important. If we don't have these details configured on a router, we can't monitor the client. Okay, so this is extremely important. Enable it, client name, who's the seller of the solution. For example, if your company has sold it directly, you'll have NGIP under the location and your client's name there. ABC Shoes, for example. And we trap all interfaces, meaning we're trapping the LTE interface as well as the Ethernet interface so that we can get activity on all of that. Okay. Another reason why we have to monitor, all these devices is so that you can go to a client and you can, for example, if it's been sold to a client and you can tell them, look, your stuff is being monitored on a live basis. We are able to download an app on our phones and we can walk wherever we want to into a customer and say, okay, look, yeah, I can see your branch A, branch B, branch C are active. This is the activity that's going on their network. So it's a good upsell for a client as well because he knows that his stuff is being monitored permanently. Okay.
Sorry.
Yes.
Track version. You've got one there, but the note's got 2. Which is the correct one?
No, you just select 2. This is just, remember, these pictures are just example pictures.
The
yeah.
top information.
The top information, yeah. These are just information purpose pictures, okay. The LED configuration, this is what I mentioned earlier. If this isn't configured correctly, then the LEDs at the back, the signal strength, won't be visible at the back because those LEDs will be monitoring the incorrect interface. Always make sure your modem signal is looking at the LTE1 interface. Okay. These interfaces names can be changed. However, don't change them. It's just better keeping them default because everybody knows what LTE1 is. If you go and put the wireless, GPS, whatever name there, I won't know what you're referring to. Okay. Of course, identity, that is what will be used when we open up the Microtech, the Winbox application the first time. As you saw in the first page, it had LTE, the client name, LTE failover gateway. The other one was a client name with VAPN, TAPN. That is the identity that gets set. So when you open up the Winbox, it shows you there. The next one is the password. Thank you. So we want to configure the password every time we configure a new router. As I mentioned earlier, the password we set to is s@msang APN. Okay. If you go and change the password yourself and you need assistance on the router, please let us know what the password is because we need to access that router then. Okay. And to change that, you can just follow on that slide there. Okay. Once you have changed the password, you've set up the APN, you've done all your details on that, this is another important step that you need to do. Is run a ping test back to our subserver from the router. Okay, so once it's been aligned, everything has been configured, now you want to start testing your calls, run a ping test and have a look at your latency. If your latency is high, you're going to experience problems. VoIP, anything above 100 milliseconds is a concern. Okay, you will experience problems. So in this case, because of it being a private APN within our network, your latency shouldn't be more than 10 milliseconds. There is instances where it can jump in that, but that is because of your signal. However, the closest to 0 is the best signal that you'll get. Okay. Keep in mind, these LTEs, for example, this one that we got here now is a Microtech LTE. As I mentioned earlier, if a client requires 3G failover, we have the Howie LTE, okay, which we are doing currently. We are also, the other router that we do is a Billion router. The Billion router is a dual SIM router. So if you have a client that's got Vodacom Telkom for failover, you'll have 2 of these routers. One of these routers will, for example, have the outdoor aerials. We don't have them here, but they're big white poles that will, plastic aerials that will be mounted outside on the pole. The one set will have that, the other set will have indoor aerials attached to this device. Okay, so the preferred network will be connected to the outdoor aerials. The Billion router that we do, I don't have a unit here to show you guys. It's got a dual SIM slot. So both SIM cards will be inserted into that Billion router and it will have outdoor aerials the same as what we use in this case, and that will be connected to the pole outside. Okay.
Wat is beter, 'n oude unit, 'n ou antenna of ieder met 'n antenna?
Look, outdoor unit, of course it's outdoor, it's line of sight, hopefully, so there's no signal or nothing in its way. With the indoor unit and external aerials, we have done some research and some testing on that on the aerials that we use. So the indoor and the outdoor unit, especially the Billion router with the outdoor aerials, they nearly go hand in hand now. Okay. The longer your cable between the aerial and the router is, the more signal loss you're going to have. So we have a standard of 5 meters that we use, and our signal loss is very minimum then. So the indoor billion with the outdoor aerials is just as good as a Microtech outdoor unit.
And window tint, that's defective.
Remember, anything can affect signal. So if it's indoor and there's window tint, some companies have very thick window tint, depending on where they are. That can affect signal. It's possible, yes. If you install a unit, do not install these indoor units inside a cabinet. Also, not just on top of the cabinet, try and install it as close to the window as possible. Okay. If you get a billion router and you have the external aerials, do not put the billion router inside the cabinet or on a shelf or so inside the in the server room. What you need to do is, just want to get a Coke here. Here's the company here, or the outside wall. Here's the roof. And mount the aerial over there, argument's sake like that. Run your your long Omni cable from the aerial into the premises. Have your billion router over there, and then your Cat5 cable back to the server room where the rest of the telephone equipment will be. Okay. So this router could be maybe just by the wall, by a window or so, but do not install this billion in the server room. Run your Omni cable inside, and somewhere inside the roof go in and connect your external aerials. This is the wrong setup here. This is the correct setup. Okay. Do you guys understand? I'm not an artist, so please. Okay.
So you can't install it inside a tin roof for protection?
No, because then you're going to need protection from us. Okay. They are called external aerials for a reason. Install them externally. Okay. So,
As I mentioned with this unit here, tin roofs, all of those things, problem. Your internal units, if you are installing it inside without an external antenna, do not put it in the rack. Rack is metal. You close in the unit, you are dampening down that signal. If you have to put it close to the rack, put it on top of the rack.
And those companies, your server rooms are hidden somewhere
Yes.
in the middle of the building.
It's not in the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but that's
if
why.
you can, mount it where there's signal.
Yeah.
Close to a window, whatever the case may be. You can run a cable to it. Okay.
So install it where
But
there's
mark the
best
unit.
signal.
Do not switch off or whatever the case is, so nobody goes there and just unplug it. It's going to bring the comms down. Okay.
Also, if you install it in a different location where the server room is, and you're using the client's multi-plug for any reason, or a plug over there, try and take tape or cable ties. Fasten that plug on there so that the cleaner doesn't come and unplug it to plug in a vacuum cleaner.
You can put a sign inside, use this plug for your vacuum cleaner.
So don't also ask the client for a sticky note and go stick it onto the plug, because within the next 2 hours that sticky note will come off.
Okay. But also, adding on to what Quentin said, I don't like multi-plugs. I'll rather look for a wall plug somewhere, unplug that device, and
Yeah.
plug that into a multi-plug and plug our equipment into the wall. Multi-plugs go faulty like we cannot.
Just the battery backups. The server is on, the server room's on battery backup.
Yes, I
That
know.
unit,
Yeah.
no backup.
No, okay. A lot of our equipment comes with UPSs, so
Yeah.
we can't
So I
count.
know the other LTEs we bought on the time, there's a battery backup.
So this always, all of you always got to.
Come with a battery backup on them, yes.
But that billion
The
was.
black ones, not the white ones.
Yeah, the black one.
Okay. So try to stay away from multi-plugs as
Yeah.
much as possible. Preferably look for a piece of equipment that can be moved to the multi-plug. Talk to the client, if you don't want to unplug the server while he's working there, and then you can move to the multi-plug. So just watch that.
Just one question, on those LTE devices, how does it catch the signal, straight or is it all around the
Well, the multi-ubiquitous, the S16, it's a directional antenna.
Yeah.
So you have to face it to the tower.
So it's
Pointed,
straight.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. It's not an omnidirectional, it's a directional antenna.
The
Actually, even the other outdoor antennas that you're putting up, it's omnidirectional. It's not omnidirectional. Face it in the correct direction.
But like you said, Nana, you had a client that you turned yours completely different way.
Work there, yes.
yeah.
that's
So if you
inside.
Yeah.
So it's only actually.
no, if your signal is
No, it may have been picking up a better signal from a different tower.
Getting
Although
reflection.
the thing was showing me that tower is the closest one.
Sometimes you can get the reflected signal, that's what you get. Yeah.
so refer back to the notes on the Microtech. So I'm going to go back on the Microtech now. I'm going to log into the unit and show you guys how to do that. Okay. So once I've opened up the Winbox application, it will list all the Microtechs that's on the network. As you can see, I've got my identities labeled there, so I know which one is what. Okay. For an example, if I want to connect into the Vodacom APN, I click on the MAC address, I put in the password, and I click connect. And it opens up that window there. As you saw when I connected now, there were a bunch of windows open, so it remembers the last window that was open when someone connected. Okay. So when you've installed a unit, extremely important, open up on the interface, double click LTE, go to status, and at the bottom you'll notice RSSI, RSRP, and the SINR. Okay. Take a screenshot of this. This needs to be added to your job card. Okay. As well as a ping test that you do back to our server. So before you do your test calls on that, do a ping test, make 4 concurrent test calls. After that, do another ping test just to make sure that your how can I say, your signal on that is still stabilized, it's still running smoothly. Okay. Talking about the job cards, along with your job cards, what you need to do is you need to take pictures of your install. You guys are doing an installation on behalf of someone else. Be proud of your work. So don't take a picture. If you've mounted this on the wall, don't hold your cell phone and take a picture of it. Stand a bit back so we can see the work that you've done. We need pictures taken of the bracket that's been mounted outside on the wall. We need to be able to see the pole that's outside as well, so that you haven't installed the pole at a 45-degree angle. It needs to be 90 degrees. If you installed a cabinet, take a picture of the cabinet. If you installed a shelf, which I'll explain to you guys where that comes into place, take a picture of all of that. Cable work. Even if you send us 30 pictures per install, that's fine. We have enough storage space. So send us pictures of all your installs. That is mandatory for every install as well. Okay. It needs to include the signal quality, as you can see there, the signal strength, and your ping test on the routers. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go through the manual. I'm going to briefly go through it. I'm not going to go all in detail and explain every option, but as I go on, you'll pick up what's in the notes. Sorry? Yeah, so you'll be emailing it, for an example, to the picker. The picker is the one that arranges all the installs for you guys, and they'll have it on file and so forth. Okay. When you get the device, first thing that we do, can you guys remember?
Check the firmware.
Okay. So to check the firmware, we click on New Terminal, System Router Board Print, and it shows me the firmware there. To do the firmware, we open up the files, we search for our firmware. Here's my firmware over here. I click and drag. As you saw, click and drag into that window, and it uploads the firmware into it. There was a file there, it will override it. And if it's a direct connection like this, it's fairly quick. However, if you log into it remotely, it does take a minute longer or so.
What version are you running in?
Currently, the firmware that we require needs to be 643. You'll also see in the very top, it will have the client's name, dash Winbox, and the firmware version. Okay.
That creation time, is that from the unit itself?
This, yeah.
There's no way you can set it to current time.
You can go into the system and go and set up a time. There is a place where you can set the time on the system somewhere, and then whatever happens there, it will be logged.
When the units come get issued, will they be on this?
Yeah,
later
when
package?
you get a router from us, we do firmware already. Okay, so it will all of this will be done already. Okay.
It's only when it defaults itself. If it was
No, if it defaults, the firmware will still be there. The only reason why I'm showing you this is if the firmware gets updated, let's say in 6 months' time, then we'll give you the link or so, and then we'll ask you to update it if we can't reach it. Otherwise, we do firmware on all the units when we get new firmware.
on that other screen there, it's got the factory firmware and then current firmware.
Yeah.
So if you do a factory default, will it default to that version?
No, it won't. There's another command that you can punch in, which will roll back to the factory firmware. Yeah.
But any scenario we come across, it shouldn't actually go back there.
No, it shouldn't.
Okay.
Okay, once the firmware has been done, we open up the new terminal window, reboot the device, log in, go to System Router Board Upgrade, reboot it again. Once it's come up, then you punch in System Router Board, System Reset Router Board. No defaults equals yes. It's going to reboot again after that configuration starts. I'm not going to reboot this device so many times, it's just going to waste some time for us, so I'm just going to follow through after that. Okay. First thing that we need to do, interface, double click LTE, go to General, username, password, and who the APN provider is, Vodacom or Telkom. We select Add Route, we apply that, we wait for the LTE. For example, I'm going to show you, I'm going to disable the link, and I'm going to enable it again. It will tell you there's search in progress, attach in progress failing, meaning it's because I just disabled the LTE module of the unit itself. So now it's coming back up, it restarted that module, and it logged back in. As you can see, it's running now. It doesn't have any line with red in there. Okay. Once we've done the interface side, the APN, we go to IP, addresses, and once your APN has signed in, you'll see the top line will have a IP address, 10.132.1.58. That is this APN's, try and understand, public static IP address, but public on our network. So if you take your mobile phone and you browse to that IP, you're not going to get access to it. If you're on our network, you'll get access to it. Okay. So it's public on our access, but not public to the public itself. Okay.
It's a static.
It's a static IP.
That's what you guys use to log into the router.
So that is the IP address that I'll be using to connect to any of the devices. Okay.
How did you get there again? Sorry.
IP addresses,
Yeah.
address list opens up. Okay. Next step is DHCP server. This router doesn't have DHCP configured. I got this set up as a failover solution. Who can explain to me why this LTE router does not have DHCP?
Because there was conflict
With what?
with the other router that you've looked at.
Yes. Okay, so if you guys can turn this way. We've got our two LTE routers here. This can be Microtex, Billion routers, Huawei routers, any router that we use here. They will not be giving out DHCP. They'll have a static IP address only. The RB750 is the one that will be giving out DHCP. Okay. And this will be the gateway of all the devices, not this. If it's a standalone device, the LTE router will be giving out DHCP. And that will be the gateway of all the devices. On a failover, it's this one. Okay. We can't have DHCP running over here, and it's just going to mess things up. Okay. So that's why there's no DHCP configured on this one. Just going to run through it, but I'm going to delete it to show you guys. IP, DHCP server, DHCP setup. We want DHCP on Ethernet 1. Next, that is the address space we want, because it's the same address range as what the router is. Gateway will be the router's own IP address. In this case, 1.2, if this was the DHCP server. So it will always be the router's own IP address as the gateway. Addresses to give out, we configure the devices from 10 to 50. Okay. So if you need static IPs, for example, you got a iServe solution or you got an audio codes and you want to assign them a static IP, then you can use anything below 10 or anything above 50. But in between 10 and 50 is our DHCP range. That range will depend on the amount of phones that you have. For example, if it's a hosted solution and you've got a bunch of IP phones there, so normally 40 IPs for now has been fine. However, we do have bigger bundles where you can have bigger ranges required, then we can just increase the range. Okay. So yeah, just click on next. DNS server we don't use. Next. Lease time 10 minutes, 20, your discretion. And it's done. As you saw, I clicked next a few times and configured my range, and it's done. Okay. If you log into a device and you would like to have a look what the DHCP addresses are that's been leased out, you click on the leases icon and it will show you what devices they are, the MAC address of the device, if there's a name for the device, and the IP address that was given to it. Okay. I'm just going to remove this one again because I already got one running here. To remove it, I click on it and I click the red button. However, I need to go to IP pool and remove the IP pool there as well. Okay. So that's the DHCP side of the router. Under the firewall, we go under NAT. We can click the blue plus sign. This window will open up. Chain is source NAT. Out interface is LTE 1. Action is masquerade. We apply that, okay, and it's done. Under firewall, we go to service ports. Sub 5060 has to be disabled. To disable that, you click on it and you click the red X. So if I want to enable it, I just click the blue one. As you can see, it's now been enabled. click the red X, and it's disabled. Extremely easy for you guys. Next is SNMP. And this is what we need to have configured so that we are able to monitor the devices. Client name, who sold it, and
Firewall we must disable that.
sorry,
Firewall needs to be disabled.
no, we under
No, the ports on the firewall, 50,
Oh.
60 must be,
yeah under the connections.
Oh, we made super LG.
Yes. So going back there, firewall, service ports 5060.
Must be disabled.
Disabled, yes. Okay. Next is system identity. That is just the identity, the name, whatever you see on top there. If you follow my mouse to the top, that will be the name there that we'll see. By default, it will say Microtech. You can't leave it default because then we can't add it onto our monitoring platform. So it has to be the client's name. Okay. LEDs, we need to confirm the modem signal has been set to LTE 1. Okay, so that the LEDs at the back will monitor the modem signal so that you can see the strength of the signal. Lastly, we have users. Double click on admin, go to password, punch in your new password. Can you guys remember what the password is?
SNMSUNGAEN.
Correct, yes. Brian, I'm glad to see you paying attention.
Oh, 11 o'clock, I'm sleeping. Can we make a backup of this file?
yes.
You can.
Wouldn't maybe.
Sorry. Files, backup, give it a name, give it a password, and you back it up.
Okay, that backs up
Onto the
device itself. You can move that back up to your PC.
to your PC again. Okay.
That should do in file.
However, it's going to take you longer. Okay, it depends on how many you have done. It's going to take you longer to back this unit up, to make a backup of it, save it onto your laptop, because by the time you've done that, I've reconfigured this device from scratch again. It's extremely easy, it's extremely quick to do.
Yeah, but from a perspective of the installer,
Yes.
the usernames and the passwords you start, so I don't have to phone you the next time it goes down.
Yeah.
So I can understand wanting
Yeah.
to make a backup.
But just sometimes, trying to speak to somebody over the phone if you don't have remote access, because the guys will put their laptops on that network. Now, you can't see it, and there's a backup, so you want to just load the backup to enable remote monitoring, because maybe they've messed it, because technicians are technicians. But just handy to have that, you can load that, make it a lot easier. I'm sure you'll agree.
It is easy doing that, but when you start explaining to someone over the phone, upload the backup, make a backup, and stuff like that.
No, all you want him to do is upload the backup.
Yeah, even that part is extremely difficult, we found. I don't know if you guys ever supported someone over the phone before. It's not always easy doing it that way. Okay, that's why we have a how-to guide. So instead of spending 15 minutes explaining to the guy how to upload a backup, we tell him, you got the notes, go through the notes. Configure it, phone me and tell me in which window you have a problem, and we'll help you from there. Because if he goes and clicks on backup and he goes and looks for his backup file somewhere on his PC, which he saved 6 months ago, I won't know where he saved it. Because he's going to ask me where he saved his backup file.
No, but it keeps the backup on there first.
Yeah, it will keep it on, yeah, but if this unit defaults for any reason, okay. There's reasons for everything. I understand your reason, but it's not always that easy. Okay. That's the Microtech for you guys. This, if you get a site where there's the LTE signal is great, it's 100%, then we'll give you a Microtech outdoor unit, and then we can give you, for an example, a highway router, which will be for indoor if the client wants failover. So this will be situated indoor, and the Microtech will be outdoor. Okay. Both LAN cables will then go to the RB750. So let's just picture this as a highway router. This is indoor, this is outdoor. The LAN cables will go into the router board, not into the switch. You can take it in here, but the only reason why I say take it in here is because this thing is doing the failover. Okay, so that if this device goes down for any reason, this one at least can still do the routing and that for you. Okay, even though you won't have access to this, but at least we know this is part of the gateway setup. So keep that together. Your phones are here.
And another reason why you'd rather go in here as opposed to here, you might need the PoE ports
Yeah.
for any devices that you're programming. So those don't need PoE, use the Microtech rather.
Here's 5 ports at the back, which has been set up in a bridge mode. So you can plug your laptop into here if you don't have enough ports over here. So these 5 ports become part of the switch as well. Okay. So for example, the audio codes doesn't need PoE. This yellow cable can be plugged into them. And then you have an additional port here for IP phone
So you can use
Okay.
RB750
as a switch.
switch as well.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions on the setup on a Microtech itself? Okay. I got some screenshots of a billion router. Unfortunately, I don't have an actual manual on a billion router for you. That will come in the near future. So I'm going to just run through the screenshots of the billion router. The billion routers are an extreme. They are extremely great devices to use. The reason is it's an all-in-one solution. It's got an access point. It's got dual SIM. We can do external aerials. It's got multiple ports at the back, so we have like a 5-port, 4-port switch in the billion as well. Okay, so just the billion itself can replace 4 devices by having 1 billion. Okay, so with the mobile solution, for an example, the billion router can replace this if need be. Okay, then we won't be using the access point. We'll be using the billion's Wi-Fi built into it. We can, if there's no IP phones on site, we can remove the switch, and we can connect whatever LAN devices are directly into the billion. If this was a billion now, so the audio codes also will go into the billion. Okay, depending on the billion model, they can come with 2 FXS ports at the back as well. So the billion can eliminate the audio codes for you as well. Okay, so instead of having 5 devices on site, you now have 1 device doing multiple things. Okay, 1 point of failure instead of 5 points of failure. Okay, who knows the difference between FXS and FXO? Besides you, and you, and you, and you. Sorry, FXO is?
It's a normal analog port.
Analog port for what? What device?
Fax machines.
No. No. Okay. I learned it. You guys can learn it how you want to, but I learned it as on a PABX, you have your CO lines, which is your trunk lines. Okay. So FXO, CO. It's a trunk line. So your trunk will come in there. And then FXS, S is for a station. So that's your analog extension. So that's where your fax machine or analog device will plug into. Fax machine, cordless phone, a SLT itself or so. So on a billion router, you have FXS extensions. On the audio codes, you have FXS. So on this device, it's got 2 ports here, which will be pre-configured. So you can plug a analog phone directly in here, and you'll be able to make a phone call. Okay.
Could you not, sorry,
Yes.
could you not use those FXS ports into like a 7030 as well?
You can. So from a analog extension, argument's sake from the audio codes, you can take a cable for each port and plug it into your trunk side on your PABX. Okay, then your PABX has 2 trunks, although they're still converting back to SIP to the provider. Yeah. Okay. So for an example, if a client has they got a 7070, they got 8 MGIs, 8 SIP channels, and the client wants more trunks on site, but they don't want physical lines on site, or they can't have physical lines on site, then we can connect the audio codes there, connect it to the FXS port, and give them SIP lines. So in theory, the client will have 10 VoIP lines.
Okay, but Brian, to answer your question, yes we can. Why would we want to? The PABX is IP compliant, so
Yeah,
we go directly, instead of through the audio box, go directly to the provider.
that's it. But in the case, for example, if the client has 8 lines already and he wants 10,
Yes.
and there's no telecom infrastructure on site, you can increase them. Okay.
So you can upgrade his PABX.
Yes. Give him a hosted solution, and then he gets rid of the PABX, and we give him 20, 30 IP phones, which can do, if he has 20 phones, 20 concurrent calls. Okay, depending on the bundle that, of course, that he took. Okay, so for example, if you take a 16 by 16 bundle, then you have 16 extensions, 16 lines. Okay. With every bundle that we give, argument's sake, the smallest one is a 4 by 4. We give you 5 free DID numbers, 5 VoIP numbers for free. If a client requires a 6th one, he pays for the 6th one. Okay. Initial setup, we give you 1 DID when you get to site, and the client says, okay, he wants a DID for his fax machine, 1 for this extension, 1 for that extension. Just give us a call, we configure the other DIDs, and there you go. Okay. We don't want to configure 100 DIDs which never gets used, because then we're using up our number block. So we configure what needs to be used. Okay. You guys happy with the MikroTik setup? If it's a failover device, for an example, 2 MikroTiks or 1 MikroTik, the setup stays the same. The only difference is if it's a standalone MikroTik, you have DHCP. If it's a failover, there's no DHCP on the SXT MikroTik itself. Okay. You guys happy with that? Okay. The setup between a failover MikroTik, so for an example, the LTE MikroTiks, if you have 2 on site, set up in a failover, the setup that we've just gone through now stays exactly the same. The only difference is if you have 1 MikroTik, then you set up DHCP on the MikroTik. If you have 2 MikroTiks, then you don't set up DHCP on either one of them.
But on the failover, you won't.
There's
no failover, you don't have the 750.
You don't have the 750. The 750 will only be given to you guys if there's more than 1 LTE router on site. Okay. Very important. Failover can be a MikroTik and a Huawei, or 2 MikroTiks or 2 Huaweis, depending on the coverage at site. Okay. If we give you 2 Huawei routers, then we'll give you, if there's 2 Huawei routers, we'll give you 1 Huawei router with external aerials and another Huawei with internal aerials. Okay. The setup on this one here has been duplicated. I'm just looking for the. Okay, here's the RB750. This one is extremely easy. Who knows the copy and paste command on your keyboard? Okay, so we've got 2 people know that knows what that is.
And then write things on the page.
Yeah. Okay. there's a script in your document that you can punch out. Otherwise, once you've sent me an email asking for the documentation, it will be given to you in a text document. You just go copy that text and paste it into the Microtech.
Whoa. Yeah, copy and paste.
Okay.
Fucking typing all that.
So that is what the RB750 will look like. So all 5 ports are set up in a bridge mode. Okay. So port 1 and 2, Vodacom, Telkom. Port 3 back to the switch. Port 4, you connect your laptop to it for configuration of any of the devices. If you have the audio codes, plug audio codes into 4 or 5 or something like that if you need additional PoE ports. Okay.
Doesn't matter which port you put it into because you're going to look at the IPs,
Yes.
Look at what's on
Yeah, when we set up the failover, some guys set it up on a port basis. They say, okay, if this route is down, look at port 1 as the gateway. However, we can't always tell you put Vodacom here, Telkom, Vodacom port 1, Telkom port 2, because you're going to get the routers, you're not going to know which one is where. Without looking at the SIM cards, you're just going to plug in. So that's why we've done it on IP level. Okay, if that makes sense to you guys. Okay. Yes. Okay. By default, all what we need to do is, DHCP will be configured on the device. The device's IP address will be 192.168.1.1. That is what we configure the device as. If we get documentation up front saying, okay, we need the following IP addresses to be assigned, that is what we'll do. Otherwise, 192.168.1.1, there will be no NAT enabled on this device because the NAT is being done on the routers, not on the RB750. Route 1 will be your strongest network coverage. That will be 192.168.1.2. Route the second LTE router will be your secondary link, and the one with the weakest signal, and that device's IP will be 192.168.1.3. Okay, so we'll just swap it around. All the devices on the network will have a gateway of 1.1. Okay. Once again, you'll be using Winbox. You'll log in, find your device, and the script is extremely easy. Just going to zoom out a little bit so we can't get the entire script in here. Okay, there's a script that will be used. Okay, so as you can see, in the script it adds DHCP for us. So what's in red, you don't punch in on your script. So if you punch this in manually, okay, what's in red, you remove that. DHCP has been configured. All 5 ports are in a bridge mode. And then this is where we're going to add the local IP address, which will be the RB750's IP address itself. At the bottom is the IP address of Telkom, for example, 1.3, and then Vodacom 1.2. So Vodacom our primary link, Telkom our secondary link. Okay. If you need to change that, then we just change those details there. Okay. Copy paste from where it says /interface bridge, from that line up until this. Copy all of this, open up new terminal on your RB750, right click paste. Okay. When you do it the first time, it will log you out the Microtech. The reason is it's configuring the bridge. It puts all 5 ports into a bridge mode. So log back in, right click paste. It will override the first few steps. It will tell you already configured. Ignore that, and it will do the rest of the config for you. Only thing that you need to do after that script has been loaded, you go into System, identity, and you give it a name. Okay, here's an example of what the script will look like once it's been loaded. It's a bit, the writing is a bit small, so I hope you guys can see. As you can see, it says add bridge 1, interface 4, interface 5. Further to the top, all of those ports were added. If it gives an error, it says device already added as bridge port. Okay, but it still does it, and it's already been configured, so it will just carry on. Once it's been pasted, just press enter twice, and the script is done. Okay. So part of the script, the DHCP has been configured. So you can just go to the DHCP option and confirm the DHCP has been configured for you, and it's giving out addresses. So just go to your lease tab and see that the devices are getting IPs. Confirm that the IP address is 192.168.1.1, and you go to bridge, go to ports, and just make sure all 5 ports are there. Although it's a script, it will do everything automatically. Just myself, I always go and confirm that the stuff has been configured. Okay. So that's the 3 options that I just go back and confirm everything has been done. Otherwise, for any reason it wasn't added, something goes wrong, I won't know where to start looking. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So that is where you go and confirm the IP address. The DHCP at the bottom is the bridge. So you'll see all 5 ports are in the bridge. Under identity, that is where we're going to put the client name -LTE failover gateway. So that when you open up Winbox, which I'll show you, the one that's highlighted says Freedom LTE failover gateway. So if I open up Winbox and I ask you to connect to the failover gateway, you know exactly which one it is.
Do you need to change the password on this one?
Preferably change the password as well. Yeah. It's not added in here. No, sorry, it is added in here. Yeah. So also change the password here, and it's the same password as the other device. All LTE devices that we give you, if it's a Billion, if it's a Huawei, if it's a MikroTik, or the RB750, if it's relating to the LTE part, we have the password as s@msang.apn. Okay.
We're done with the
Yeah, that's the MikroTik. So there we've done a standalone MikroTik. We've done the failover solution, the 2 MikroTiks set up as a failover, and then we've done the RB750 that does the routing on the failover. Okay. All of this is extremely important for you guys to know how to do and how to troubleshoot. For example, if you get an install with an iServe solution, or your phones come up and they say DHCP fail, you log into the device that's giving out DHCP and you go and see under the leases what's happening. Is any other device not getting an IP address? Is it just that particular device? Plug your laptop into that device and see if your laptop is getting an IP address. Okay. Please, if you don't know anything about networking or IP or so forth, okay, the book's name, other name is called Network for Dummies. Okay, you're able to get it from PNA or wherever. It explains to you the basics of networking. Okay, so just take that book, read through it to confirm and see how to configure IP address on your PC and so forth. Okay. If you guys don't know how to do that, but I'm sure everybody knows how to configure IP address on the PC.
Yeah.
Brian, I know you struggle from time to time, but you an exception. Okay. The Billion routers are extremely great devices. We've done a few already. At this moment, we're just there's a problem nationwide with the billion stock, so that's why I don't have a billion router here to show you guys. It's not only us that's struggling to get the billion devices, there's other ISPs out there that's also waiting for their stock. Okay, but when you get a billion device, know that you got the best device there. Okay, I'm not saying these are bad, don't get me wrong, these are great devices.
You're saying those are cock.
No. Don't put words in my mouth. What I'm saying is the billion is an all-in-one solution. Okay. You have one.
This works. It works perfectly for what it's intended for.
Yes,
But the billion just suits our purposes
a lot better.
a lot better.
Because it's an all-in-one device. You have Wi-Fi, you have a dual SIM, you can
So,
connect external
in other words,
areas.
Okay, the only downside I see with the billion is,
Doesn't have PRE.
no, not that, is your placement of the billion for the Wi-Fi signal.
Why
The
do you,
APN gives you the flexibility to have
why do you want a
That
Wi-Fi
stuff in the
signal
room.
on the?
If it's a mobile solution.
for a mobile
Oh,
solution.
okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah,
There might be cases where you might have to
But-
supply
Still
APN.
supply an API.
yeah, but that is depending on the building itself, the client's office. So a billion could be good enough for an office like this, if it's open plan office. However, if there's different rooms in that, then we'll supply, the client just needs to purchase additional APNs for the other offices. Oh, not APNs, access points.
Okay, but
So
on, if you supply the Hawaii, you get, as a mobile solution, the APN comes included. Now you go to site and they need an APN because the salesman hasn't installed. The client will have to pay for it.
you mean an access point?
The access point up.
Look, if there's the mobile solution, there's definitely a access point.
As soon as the billion becomes available, I'm sure we will start including a Wi-Fi access point
As
an extra.
As an add-on extra.
Okay, so it shouldn't be an issue.
So if there's a mobile solution that you do, and we don't provide you a access point, it means that we'll be using the billion as the access point. Okay. If you get to site, of course the sales guy and the client would know up front to say, okay, we need additional access points, then you'll get that stock. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay, we're done with the connectivity now coming in. We're going to take a short break.
Yeah.
Because I can see the smokers in the room is starting to get a bit nervous. And then we're going to start after that with all the devices we're going to connect on the other end of it.
yeah.
Okay. We've got all of that equipment, which is fine. We've got the iServe single cell solution. Very nice new product. Sorry? Okay, well, we're going to cover it now. So we will cover